Tired of Ka-50s eating your lunch as when you're playing an SPAG? Well, we might have something for you that might help out with that. Or at least Gaijin says it might. Let's take a look at what's coming your way. By the way, I'm Old Deadman, your host. Welcome to War Thunder's website. We're on the Missile Duels Devblog, where it talks about how they're going to change missiles in the for certain vehicles in the upcoming La Royale update. So we'll start off with the beam riding missiles and multiple shots of same. Currently, the way the game works is that if you fire multiple missiles, they will all ride the exact same beam to the target. So you fire missile, 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 missile. You can have a whole bunch of missiles all on the same track going right down the chain straight to the target. If you've got countermeasures that might stop those missiles from tracking to you, and they only deal with one missile at a time, or if your missiles can engage those missiles but you only have two on tap, well, when the third missile goes, you are out of luck. Here's how the missile is supposed to work in real life. When you fire the missile, it follows this track, but the aperture for the laser that it's supposed to ride is wide. It's kept wide so that it can track within the different quadrants of light. As it moves down, the aperture narrows and becomes narrower and narrower and narrower until it hits the target and explodes. In real life, when you fire a missile, as in this graphic right here, as the missile travels along, it follows the beam of light, which is actually wide open at the start. And as it moves down the path, it narrows that aperture for that beam of light to go down and narrows the guidance area that the missile is going on. So as it gets more intense, as the aperture moves down, it gets more intense and can go farther. Then it impacts the target and kablooey. You could have multiple missiles going along the same path as long as they're relatively close together, so that way it won't be outside of the aperture. However, if you're to try and fire multiple missiles and have them far apart, you'll see something more like this happen. You fire the first missile, and the aperture begins to narrow down and narrow down as it gets closer and closer to the target. If you fire a second missile right before it gets to the target, the aperture opens back up to guide the second missile. And the first missile loses the accuracy of its track and will then try and go elsewhere in that whole area, if it can even get the laser beam at all. And this is how the missiles will function in War Thunder, or at least for certain vehicles in La Royale. So let's take a look at the vehicles here. That'll be for the Ka-50, Ka-52, Me-28NM, AH Mark I, Su-25T, Su-39, Orion Strike UAV, BMP-2M, ASRAD-R, ADATS ZT-3AD, the Stormer HVM, and the ADATS M113. These vehicles will now be affected by this change, and the only way you'll be able to fire multiple missiles is if you fire them close together. The other change will be the proximity fuse on certain missiles as well. Right now, the proximity fuse arms immediately, and it can be touched off by items that are near the path of your surface-to-air missile. So with this change, the range to the target, it's going to get close to that area before it arms the proximity fuse. Obviously, those missiles that don't have a good range to target are not going to be affected by this and will be armed for the entire duration. But those that have this ability, they'll be guided in this way and have a good idea of how close they are to the target, will arm their warhead towards the very end of their flight. That'll include the VT-1, the Roland 2, the Roland 3, the 9M331, the 9M311, the 9M311M1, and the 95YA6. There we go. So that's the scoop on those missiles. Now, effects. This will make it so the Ka-50 has less of an opportunity to overwhelm the defenses of a typical SPAG. They won't be able to just keep throwing missiles at you in close succession for forever. I mean, they've got a ton of the things. And you've typically only got 2 or maybe 4 that you might be able to intercept it with. This will be good for SAM launchers, so they'll be able to counter cause a little bit better, and as well as other types of high volume of fire vehicles in this regard. On the other hand, you can still do it You just have to be more conservative with how you do it. It does make it a little bit more fair and a little bit less unbalanced, and a little more realistic too. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Give me the old thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. This one I did a little bit more off the cuff than normal, so it's a little bit more disjointed, but if you have questions, let me know in the comments as well. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in War Thunder.